Hello everyone and welcome to Oxwide, and this is Friday the 18th of June. We've got a usual action-packed programme today with broadcasts from our Section 136 suite in Greenwich, some information about our Vital Veterans Champions work and some of the fantastic stuff that's happening there across the Trust, and also a recent bit of footballing activity up at Sparrows Lane with our friends and partners from Charlton. Just first, one or two bits of Trust news. As of today, this Friday, CQC have published a follow-up inspection on our older adults inpatient wards. They inspected towards the end of last year after older adults had a really tough time through the pandemic, and CQC picked up that we had taken the eye off the ball in terms of managing ligature risks, and that our follow-through on some of the actions that we'd identified in serious incident inquiries into a couple of incidents affecting the service, that it hadn't been up to the standard we'd expect. Now, I know older adults as a service take a great deal of pride in the quality of the care they offer, the compassion that they put into the service, and they were, as we all were, sort of stung by what the regulator had found, but the response from older adult services has been fantastic. And I must say thank you also to Christine Kapopo and to Vicky Wells for the work they've done in working with our colleagues across older adults to get the right framework and structure in place. And I'm delighted that CQC have come back and they've rated us as good in both the safe and well-led domain for older adults, but in a report that really is worth reading because of what it says about our staff in Oxleas, the way in which they've responded to this challenge from the regulator. And it's put us right back in the position where, I'm looking forward to that service getting a full inspection, because I think some of what we do in older adults is outstanding. And I think the clinicians and the operational staff that work there to care for those really vulnerable people at a very difficult stage often in their lives, it really does deserve recognition. So thank you to each and every one of you who's been part of the Trust responding to those concerns from the CQC. Do take the time to read the report, because it says all the things you would want the regulator to be saying about Oxleas, and it really captures some of the spirit of this Trust in the way it describes our response to those concerns about care. I'm joined now by Dr. Tom Clark, Deputy Medical Director at Oxleas. And Tom, we're here today to talk about Home First, which has become a really important part of the way Oxleas works in the last year. Tell us a bit about Home First. What is it?
So, Matthew, you're right, really important and exciting piece of work that's, I guess, been in chain for the last sort of 6 months and will carry on. So it's best to describe it as a programme of work across the Bexley and Greenwich system to provide more care in people's homes. And I know that perhaps in itself sounds a bit woolly, so I'll just say that there's different components to this, Matthew. And one bit will be about preventing admission to hospital, so looking to get into people's homes early when they're unwell, supporting GPs in managing people with high quality care that may mean that they can avoid admission to hospital entirely, which would be a great result. But also looking to support people once they've been in hospital and in their recovery at home and getting them back into the swing of things, and potentially preventing them being readmitted to hospital. So it's all about providing really high quality care in people's homes when it's appropriate and safe to do so.
And which sort of parts of Oxleas, which teams at Oxleas and other parts of the NHS locally are involved in this?
It's a really good question. So the focus of Home First is with our physical health adult community service teams in Bexley and Greenwich, but we're working really closely with GPs, so primary care, and with secondary care, and with local authority as well, because it involves all these different organisations too. So we're one part of this. And I guess from an Oxleas perspective, it does sort of also sit within our strategic priority for great out-of-hospital care. But you can probably imagine, I guess, if a person we're looking to manage an individual at home. So let's give an example. So someone is a little bit poorly, the GP's been called, but feels, look, I can't go out there right now, and this person should be seen. One of our rapid response teams could then be called out, and the sort of response times, Matthew, are incredible. They're seeing people who need to be seen within 2 hours at the moment, and could see someone in home, assess what the issue is. There's often support from either GPs that are embedded within our services or linking into the hospital to provide what's required. That might be some basic medical treatments, it might be some therapy, it might be a step up in social care provision, it might be actually that person is unwell and does need to go to hospital, and the recommendation might be that they should attend hospital, but it might then be that that's perhaps in a clinic setting as opposed to going through A&E. So it's about getting things right. I would say, Matthew, because I think people's concern with this is that, well, look, are we trying to stop people going to hospital? Well, it's more about treating people at home when you can, and it's right to do so, and preventing the need for hospital. But if people are unwell, or someone does have a certain condition that needs hospital, your hospital is certainly the right place for them.
And what you're describing there is part of the essence of great out-of-hospital care, is that when people do need in-hospital care, they do need an inpatient admission. It's a purposeful admission, with a clear therapeutic outcome and a plan of care that gets someone through that journey. And one of the things we hear a lot about, don't we, every winter, and certainly my first winter at Oxleas, it was regular phone calls, was about how do we get people out of QE? Because Queen Elizabeth Hospital, incredibly busy. This week just gone, I think they've had 2 days where they've set all-time records for attendances on the site. And the key thing is those delayed discharges, those people who are still in a bed, who need to go either to Eltham or they need to go back to their home. So is Home First be able to make some inroads into that, Tom?
I think so, Matthew. And I think we've already seen actually that this collaborative approach, working with other providers, has meant that there's pressures have been taken off the hospital. There will always be pressures, though. I think the bit that's exciting for me, Matthew, is the prevention bit. That if you can treat people early in their illness and well at home, it will stop them from needing hospital in the first place. But you're right also, there's always that pressure to create space in the hospital when people are there and discharging people. So I gave an example about our rapid response teams in Bexley and Greenwich and the sort of approach they take when someone's unwell. But there's also supportive services too. So we're looking to increase our provision of nursing staff, of therapists, so that's physios, OT, speech and language therapists, to support people's recovery in their homes. But also other services, so collaborating quite strongly with social care in reablement. And reablement is a form of care package, which is actually short term. So focusing on people getting back into the swing of things and doing the things that they were doing beforehand, so they don't need care in the long term. So that sort of approach as well, which I think will help people get out of hospital promptly without delays, but will also support them to achieve a better quality of life ongoing and potentially prevent them needing to go back into hospital as well. The thing is with hospital is that obviously it is right for people who are unwell and have certain conditions, but with the pandemic we're acutely aware that there's the risk of infection when you put people together. So hospital can be a dangerous place if you don't need it, and there's the infection risk, but also the risk of other complications like falls and medication errors. And overall, for anyone out there that's experienced being in hospital, it can be quite a disorientating and sometimes not a great experience. So far better to be treated in the comfort of your home if you can be. What
I love about what you're describing, Tom, is that it is very much about the person at the centre of this, the person who's got their healthcare needs, and about doing what's best for them, which is, as far as possible, treating them in the place that they're familiar with, in the place where they've got it set up for their own needs and with their families there. And one of the things that really struck me last time I visited the Rapid team and listened to one of their board rounds was how person-centred their judgments were and how person-centred their decisions were about that person's care and how they could provide them with that best. And it was really inspiring to see. And I suppose lots of what happens in the community is relatively invisible compared to what we see about what happens in intensive care units or in acute hospitals. But what you really are describing is a multidisciplinary specialist team in the community taking that kind of specialist care right into people's homes. So what's next for Home First, Tom?
So just so you're right, Matthew, we've got some fantastic teams delivering great care already, and they're doing this work already. But I guess we're looking to develop this further now. So we've asked for some money from the South East London CCG to do more and to, I guess, support services that are delivering this work. We've got some great staff who are managing this piece. And I'd just like to, I guess, mention Lisa Cooper and Rachel Matheson, the associate directors in both the boroughs, who are doing a great job in leading their teams on this. So I guess, look, just to say, lots more to come.
Thanks very much, Tom, and we'll keep our eyes peeled for more from Home First.
Hello, so we're joined by Ian Bryan, who's our Armed Forces lead, and Carl Knopp, who's our nurse from the Bracton Centre. We're here to talk about Veterans Week and specifically some of the services that Oxleas provides for veterans. So first of all, if we start with you, Ian, could you tell us exactly, as our Forensic Armed Forces lead, what your job entails?
We were providing a veteran awareness training. It was 4 modules, and it was just giving frontline Oxleas service personnel a kind of overview of how to engage with veterans that come into the services. And it's a half-day and it was initially started just before lockdown. We had some good attendance from it, but since lockdown, it's been put on hold. But we're looking at restarting it shortly. We've got no dates at the moment.
Can you tell us what is the need for the training? So what are the differences between a service user who is an ex-serviceman or woman and a service user who isn't? So what's the extra training that you would need?
It was just giving them an understanding of certain veterans' needs, and it came about from the Armed Forces Covenant that they shouldn't be disadvantaged once they've left the forces. But it came about speaking to one of the trustees, Stephen Dilworth, that unfortunately there was an investigation about a veteran because there's a lot of suicides among veterans, particularly if they've seen active service. So it was what Oxleas were doing for any ex-service personnel. Delayed trauma, adjustment disorder, but also normal mental health issues that civilian population and veteran population also experience.
Okay, lovely, thank you. And you've come from a military background yourself, haven't you? So could you tell us just a little bit about that?
I served in the infantry and joined in 1974 and served 26 years. I left and bimbled around slightly with lots of different jobs. And then finally in 2005, I decided to change my own belief system and trained as a psychiatric nurse. And on qualification, I worked initially 5 years at combat stress before moving on, and ended up in 2012 working at Milestone, where I met Carl, and that's where we first just started to talk about veterans and the veterans needed, because we came across quite in the Armed Forces Commonwealth at Milestone.
So I think that must give you a unique insight as well, having your past experience as an ex-serviceman, being able to use that in the work that you do to help ex-servicemen now and women.
It can. It's not a disadvantage if you've not served in the military. I'm working with veterans. It's just doing a little bit of research and exploring their needs.
And if we could move over to you, Carl. You've joined us from the Bracton Centre, and I know that you're looking at developing some armed forces champions across the trust. Could you tell us a little bit about that and what you're asking from people?
Yeah, sure, Lisa. So I'm the COMAD, the co-occurring drug and alcohol lead for forensic services. And Ian and I have worked on the Veterans Project for probably the last 5 years or so. One of the initiatives we've been looking to explore is you can have the best armed forces, veteran strategy of any trust, but with it and whether we can actually change the outcomes for the guys and the females that come our way, whether you can actually do something with it to change the outcomes for them when they come into our services with the trust. So the only way we can really do that is by cascading that military mindset training that kind of Ian and Lorraine deliver out to a range of colleagues across locations, so that when people do come that way, we can actually signpost them to the services they need. We're actually doing something tangible with that. So perhaps we're going on to TILs, to other services using the Veterans Gate. So these kind of things. So for us, it was really about identifying colleagues across the trust who wanted to be leads, who would undertake that training and then take on that role, that if ex-service personnel were to come their way, that they would have that extra level of skill to sort of take that forward. So that's where we're at the moment. We had previously had leads identified, but of course COVID, same as with everything, kind of gets in the way. So that's our next challenge is to sort of identify those champions and to upskill them so we can actually take that forward.
So how do people contact you if they're interested in becoming a champion for the trust?
So looking at running some events, Lisa, in the months that come, hopefully, and with that training, when that's either delivered on an online format, or when we go back to face, and I think that will probably be the ideal opportunity for people to kind of put their hand up and say, actually, really like what we've heard, and we'd like to be a champion within our own service.
Lovely, thanks very much.
Cool, you're very welcome. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you to Carl and Ian, a great piece of film there. I'm now joined by Lorraine, our Veterans Champion at Oxleas. So Lorraine, tell us a bit more about what's next for the Veterans Group.
So the Veterans Group is really busy at the moment because we've got two particular standards that we are working towards. So one is the Gold Armed Forces Covenant, and the other one is to be accredited as an NHS trust, to be veteran aware. And both of them have different aspects aligned to them. So one is the Veterans Covenant Healthcare Alliance, and that will ensure that all NHS trusts across England are providing the same standards of input access to care as other trusts. And so it's uniform for all families and serving personnel of military, reservists and veterans that are accessing the NHS services. So they have no disadvantage. We've got more of a level playing field, because often, even under the Armed Forces Covenant 2 principles, there has been disadvantage across the whole of the sector for families. So we're talking about the whole of NHS England, and the research that was done by the KCMHR, King's Centre for Mental Health, Military Health Research, where families were saying that when they're posted from one place to another, that they aren't often able to get back on the wait list where they were at the other place. And all we're doing is just making it fair. So for our trust to recognise the two principles of the Armed Forces Covenant, which are no disadvantage, and to have priority treatment for the clients that are coming forward with injuries from military, so whether it's bereaved, widowed families, whether it's an injured service personnel, but it's not about jumping the queue, because I think that word priority sparks off a few alarm bells for people. That would mean that we've got advantage, and what we want is a level the advantage. So we want a fair level playing field for everybody, civilian and military, but just to take a little bit of the disadvantage out of the alignment, to have access to therapy at priority levels. So for instance, 72 hours they'll have an assessment, and within 2 weeks, if the personnel has got military induced mental health needs, they need to be seen within about 2 weeks for treatment. Otherwise, if it's risk orientated, then obviously our usual protocols fall into place. People are seen immediately.
So what you're describing here is to make sure that the NHS takes into account the particular circumstances that do affect veterans and their families. You know, you talked about the mobility, and the way in which the way that we manage services in lists is often very heavily tied to location. And also recognising that people have put their lives on the line for their country as well, and when they've suffered physical and mental trauma for that the National Health Service, you know, part of that compact really between us and the military is that we make sure that we offer them the support that they need when they're in those points of crisis. And in the context of Veterans Group within Oxleas, Lorraine, you know, what more can we do to raise awareness of this, to make sure you've got the right resources and the right connections within the trust?
Well, we've got a wealth of people across the trust that are involved in this. So you've got our new veteran HR champion is Rachel Claire Evans, and Rachel will be taking care of the managerial side, the recruitment of veterans and reservists, those people that are really leaving the transition point, leaving the military, looking for works. So there's the Career Transition Partnership that we're linked in with, and also the REED, so the Regional Employment Engagement Directors, to guide For me, I'm on the clinical side, so I'm going to be, if you like, front and centre, working on the behalf of the families of the serving personnel that are coming in now to the barracks. And there's King's Troop and the Princess of Wales Royal Regiment that are due in soon, as one Royal Anglian are leaving. So we want to build a nice pathway there, because every 2 to 3 years they change. So what we're in the process of doing is the directors and myself are hopefully going to have a meeting with the colonel at the barracks and have a way of constructing a pathway that's more concrete, that the new regiments that come in will automatically know about, because if you've not lived in this area before, you don't know what's available to you. We're doing lots of things. So we've got training being rolled out at the moment. Carl and Ian were talking about champion training. I did a little bit of training yesterday to some of the managers in the home treatment team and crisis teams with Francis Azinku, and that was really well received. And from that, we're going to start providing MS Teams training, Carl, Ian and I. And I believe that Francis is going to do the logistics of organising that, so that all staff will be able to understand the 2 principles of the Armed Forces Covenant, ask people if they're a veteran or a family member. That's now on Rio. Carly Oliver at the Transformations team, she's been really keen on getting 1-page document, background information on Rio for all staff to be able to identify when a veteran is coming into the service, so that we can then follow the 2 principles of the Armed Forces Covenant and make sure that there isn't any disadvantage. Because with the accreditation process that's going to happen, we've got 8 manifesto points. We already meet 4 of them. We just need the other 4. So your question about what needs to happen next, I think we need to have those links with SAFA, for instance, so the Soldier, Sailor, Air Force and Families Association, Blind Veterans UK, those particular charities that are specifically there for armed forces, military, serving and ex-military, so that we can show that we are actually, referring on to the right places, the people that people want to be involved with. We've also got TILs in the NHS, as you know. So we've got our Transition Intervention Liaison Service, the Bespoke Veterans Service down in St Pancras Hospital. And often I meet veterans that are not aware. So these veterans will be longer time veterans, not aware of the Armed Forces Covenant, unaware of the Veteran Covenant Healthcare Alliance. And so I see that what our role will be is using the media to bring that to people's attention, just like we're doing now, and supporting next week as well. So although I'm sort of here speaking to you, I'm speaking on behalf of our group. We've got quite a large group that meet once a month in the Veteran Working Party, and we've been meeting since 2016. And so it's going from strength to strength. And we realised that we'd already done 4 of the 8 manifesto points without guidance. We'd already done that.
And it'll be great to get that recognition. And I'm sure, Lorraine, with this the passion and the clarity with which you've set out the work we're doing here and what we've seen in today's film, I'm sure we're well on that path to that accreditation. Thank you so much to you and your fantastic colleagues across the Trust and in our partner organisations. Our veterans give a lot for us, and it's very important that we make sure they get the support and the care they deserve as a result of that. Thank you, Lorraine.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you.
Now, earlier this month, Lisa Tan visited our health-based place of safety, our Section 136 suites, now based both at Oxleas House. The new suites there were opened a year ago, and Kahindi and her team were very keen to celebrate their first birthday in style.
It might seem like an unusual celebration, but we couldn't let the year anniversary of our health-based place of safety at Oxleas House in Greenwich pass without marking the occasion. We took the opportunity to meet some of the team and find out how the last year has been, starting with Place of Safety Manager Kahindi Johnson.
My role as the manager for the health-based place of safety is to manage the 136 suite. Which is is the 2 centralized bed in the 136 suite in Oxleas now. It used to be one in Oxleas House, one over at Green Park's house. but now it's not centralized, two-bedded, 136 suite.
This has been a really a success story, I would say. Before, we used to have only one suite on this place. Then they renovate it and make it suitable for 2 patients at a time. So we cover the areas like Bromley, Bexley and Greenwich. And even if the patients are picked up anywhere else in the London, they can bring them over if we have the space.
So our role as the place of safety is to ensure that their journey, they have a smooth transition from when they come to the health-based place of safety until when we can put a plan in place. Either they are discharged back to their GP or they are admitted, discharged back to their GP or to a community team who can support them, whether home treatment team or the community mental health services, ICMP, ADAPT. Some are already known already.
We are open to almost everyone who can bring the patient under section 136 and 135. The difference between 136 and 135 is the patients who picked up from their homes are under section 135, and they are because the family raised concerns and the community teams involved with them, they arrange assessments and then they bring them over here. And the second source, as we all knew, that is from police. Anyone in the community, in the public place, in the parks, in the hospital, in the town centers, on the street, if they are found behaving bizarrely or strangely or putting their lives at risk, they are picked up by the police under section 136.
I was talking to people who've been here from the beginning, to someone who's only been here a month, and to hear the sort of the passion that they've got for this, which is a really tough job. These are people in crisis. The police have brought them in for various reasons, thinking they're a danger to themselves or others. There may have been a crisis exacerbated by drink or drugs, some very challenging patients. And they are dealing with them here, and quite often we know that just being here for a while helps them a great deal, because only about half go on to be admitted. So an awful lot of people just benefit from the care they get here.
So I do close one-to-one observations with patients that are brought in under section 136 and 135, and I take care of them all the time they're here. It can have its challenging moments, but most of the time we get a really good rapport going with the patients and try and make them feel as welcome and comfortable as possible. It's not always possible, but it can be. But no, I really enjoy it.
We can accommodate more patients at a time and work them out whether they need admission or can be discharged in the community. We have got 136 suites all over the city in London. Different trusts have got their own 136 suites. So the more capacity means the more efficiently we can move the patients on.
I've got to thank all our other partners here, Lewisham and Greenwich, who quite clearly we work very closely with our patients going down to their A&E, and of course the police, dealing with people for whom it's not their first job to be dealing with mental health patients, but our relationship with them gets better and better. If things don't work out sometimes, we have a review, we work on it, we see how we can make it better.
As soon as we receive the patient, we identify and take consent from the patient, and we keep the family on board throughout the process. We keep them informed where the patient is right now and where the patient will be going after. And especially if they are going to be discharged, it's very important to keep the family in confidence and take them on board, because they can play a very important role in patient's recovery.
They've done a fantastic job. I was hearing about how there were 496 referrals in this last 1 year and 270 admissions. So about 80% of them have to be sectioned. So this is the kind of patients that you are seeing which have required to be sectioned and to be admitted. But fantastic work also by home treatment team, the other supporting teams, the doctors who turn up in the middle of the night, and the AMS, the assistance from the police. So I think good demonstration of teamwork, fantastic work in very challenging times.
And so now everything comes to here, which means the staff have got much more work to do, but it also means we can develop the expertise. Staff have had to learn an awful lot in this last year they've had. It's been an incredibly busy year, a really steep learning curve for them all. But I think they've done really well. I've been most impressed. The care that they display, I think, is just wonderful. It really is. They really do care about some of the most vulnerable people in our society at some of the most difficult times that they've got.
The first year was certainly a challenge for all involved, and they made sure people who were admitted to the suite were treated with kindness and compassion. In the years ahead, we'll continue to listen and work with our partners and patients.
Great to see the progress that the 136 team have made there over the last year. Now, next up, we're going over to the Sparrows Lane training ground of Charlton Athletic to speak to Flora and Carl there, because recently some of our Oxleas teams took part in a very special kind of football tournament.
Hi, I'm Flora, the digital designer at Charlton Athletic Community Trust. I'm here tonight with Jason, the chief executive at CACT, at the tournament, Oxleas NHS tournament.
This evening is part of the London United initiative. 8 clubs across London are working with their local NHS trust. We're very proud that Oxleas is our local NHS trust. Not just about tonight, we've got a long-standing relationship with Oxleas, delivering several crucial programmes on behalf of them. But also we see from close up how crucial they are to our local communities through the services they run within our local areas. So it's fantastic to be able to put this on for them this evening.
We're really pleased to be hosting this. It's something that all the London clubs are doing, so it's our way of just showing our appreciation and saying our thanks to NHS workers, frontline workers. We've had a long relationship with Oxleas, a lot of projects and programmes we've done over the years, and this is just an opportunity to have a Friday evening kick around, a bit of music, a bit of food, and our way of showing our appreciation and thanks to all the hard work, not just during the pandemic, but ongoing really.
I think it's really nice to see everyone just coming out and having a good time, but obviously it's been a tough year for everyone, but you know, especially them, they've done an incredible job in their roles, and you know, it's nice to thank them and just let them come out and play football and have some fun.
Fresh from the pitch, how's the football going?
Do you know what, it's really good turnout, considering the traffic options and problems we had down here tonight. But great turnout from the guys really. I think we've got about 4 or 5 teams put together in the end. Played in a good spirit. IT, some biting tackles. But having said that, no, great turnout, and it's a great event organised by yourselves at Charlton Athletic Community Trust.
We've always had a really good working relationship with Charlton, so it feels really nice for us to be able to come here today. The guys are absolutely loving it, and the ladies. And it just feels really nice to be here, and the staff are letting off some steam, and it just feels great to be all together having a lovely time.
I've been watching you out there this evening running around playing a bit of football. How have you found it this evening?
Harder than I thought it was going to be. Today was a really good fun time, and I'm sweating lots, and I've done lots of physical activity, which is also very good for you and good for your mental health as well.
So we've got some of our Charlton Upbeats here this evening, that's our Down syndrome project. So we've got DJ Joe, who's here tonight, and bless him, he's a DJ, he does do gigs and stuff, so we've offered to pay him for tonight's services, and he wants to donate that to the local NHS, so that money will be going to Oxleas or some of their services as well. And we've got 2 of the other lads who wanted to give their time up to come and take part and be ball boys, and I think they've ended up playing for some of the teams, which is great. They've just got involved this evening.
My name's William, and I'm playing for the Upbeats.
I'm Billy, and I play for the Upbeats as well.
Okay, so guys, why are you here tonight? Why are you supporting these guys?
To support the NHS through the COVID times and the lockdown.
Yeah, same. I'm going to say the same thing as well. And I like to be here as well because to support you and also the NHS.
With my role, kind of had first-hand experience working on some of the acute wards and rehab wards across the trust. Some of them wards got hit hard with COVID, and you could just sense from the staff that they needed some kind of outlet, and something like football and sport in general, as you know yourself, has the power to do that.
It's a bit of fun. It's just a nice opportunity for the London clubs to come together, to work with their local hospitals. So there's a lot of great work that goes on anyway. And this is something we've talked about in a London United meeting, that we want to do this. So a tournament, and then I think it is in July we'll be able to get the dates, because it'd be great for Oxley staff to support the team that represents Charlton in the final. So I think Brentford are hosting it.
Well, I know Chelsea have held their event already, and the team, I saw photos yesterday, look quite fit. Look like they play a lot of football, but we've got some good teams here tonight. And I'm sure whichever one of these teams wins, we'll support properly. We're going to take them up there. We're going to provide transport, a kit. Bob Boulder might be coaching them. I'm not sure if that's a positive or a negative.
Oh, yeah, different. It's played in real good spirit, got nice and competitive as well, which is good. Because obviously, it's not a result, but you do want to win really when you come into playing football and stuff. But they're a good little team as well, not bad. And then they're going to go carry on to the area final type thing over at Brentford way. But no, brilliant. It's just whole refereeing style was just nice, and the evening went really well. And
a nice bit of grub to finish.
And I think we got fish and chips.
It's nice for Charlton to invite us down as part of Oxleas, so thank you for that, Charlton. And it really represents having Billy join us. It really represents what Oxleas and Charlton are about. Really, is about the wider community and how it all interlinks and works together. And it's always nice to play football. You can get kicked a little bit, but it's enjoyable. And it's nice to spend time with people from work, away from work, especially over the last year or so. We've not actually seen a lot of each other, even though we work together. So it's been great to have some sort of normality back and play some football.
Like any other NHS trust, it's been a really, really difficult year. But testament to the staff, everybody's come together. We've kind of made the best of a bad situation. And hopefully events like this show there's light at the end of the tunnel and the world's slowly coming back to normal, hopefully.
Yeah, I think it's been massive. I'm a big supporter of the NHS personally, and that. I mean, when my dad was poor, they looked after him magnificently. And it's just that the staff, obviously, in the front line, they're very professional, they're always compassionate, caring, loving, and got to be honest, they're a different class.
So these guys have obviously worked very hard for the last 18 months. In my eyes, I think they've done a brilliant job. To you, what are they?
They're superheroes, they are, from us.
Heroes, and also hero come true.
Dream come true. Sorry, dream come true as well.
Love it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your team's 6-0 down.
That's a great film there. Thanks so much to Jason, Carl and colleagues at Charlton. They've been a brilliant partner to us over the years and through the pandemic, continued their fantastic work with us in the community in Greenwich. Best of luck to the IT lads and to the Oxleas women's team who'll be travelling up to Brentford for the London United finals soon. We do need more women for the team as well, so if you're interested, do give Mark Baker a shout and you can get out there on the pitch. And of course, by the time many of you watch this, we'll also be reflecting on Scotland defeating England. A bit later on this evening, I'll be going home to get the saltire out. Okay, so a great Oxwide this week. Lots to take in from there, from the veterans' work to the Section 136 suite to what we've just heard about the football. So take all that in, take some time off over the weekend if you can, and get out in whatever kind of weather we get. And I'll see you all again soon. Thank you.